Turning now to the massive shake-up of polytechnics and industry training. Next year, the nation's 16 polytechnics will be rolled into a single super institute with more than 100,000 students and responsibility for nearly all of the country's on-the-job training. Industry training organisations that oversee the apprenticeship system will also go, but their replacements, workforce development councils, will be able to veto courses that don't come up to scratch. Now, Dave Guerin is the editor of Tertiary Insight and joins me now. Good evening to you, Dave.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Look, take us back a little bit and let's address the problem here, because some people might be arguing that this is a solution looking for a problem.
Well, there are two problems here, really. One is the long-term one is that we have skill shortages in New Zealand. Regardless of the best efforts of everyone in the system at the moment, we still have them, and they need to be solved. And there's various groups that benefit more or less from tertiary education. So there's all sorts of things like that need to be solved. The other problem is that polytechnics finances were looking pretty bad. Some of them had some management problems, but across the board, they just didn't have enough money to make the books balance. And so the bigger driver of these reforms is really the financial position of polytechnics.
Yes, so I guess we heard earlier from the Southern Institute of Technology saying that it's got more to lose than to gain. Does this, in your opinion, does this big rolling into one even everyone out?
Well, I think it'll take a long time to even everyone out, but it will to an extent. But look, there's problems that enrolments went down. Some people didn't manage their polytechnics that well, but the other problem is that the funding rates just haven't changed in a long time. So regardless of anything else, the government's just going to end up pumping more money in order to make things work, because at the bottom of it all, there isn't enough funding in there for these organisations to work at the moment. And that's what the government's found. With the announcement today, it's announced these big changes, but underlying it all, it says that it's going to roughly double the amount of money that it's committing to the reforms that it originally talked about.
Okay, now rolling them all into one is going to obviously centralise everything and give the minister more power. He's actually saying that it will give industry more power because they will have the power to limit some courses where there are just not places to fill. I mean, that sounds very pragmatic, rather than people lining up and doing courses that they just like the sound of, or that universities and polytechnics offer because they might have the staff with the expertise to teach them. We're hopefully going to get people coming out of these institutes that can go straight into jobs. So it sounds good. Yes,
and a lot of industry groups are very supportive of that. Some industry groups are upset about other things in these reforms, but across the board, they're pretty supportive of the idea that industry will have more say about where resources go and which programs are funded and which are not. There certainly are issues there, and there'll be a lot of employer support for that change. Other things within the reforms there'll be less support for.
Now, Dave, like a lot of the things this government is doing, it's big, it's aspirational, and of course it takes a long time for, I guess, the public to test whether it's been a success or not. They're saying that, I guess what we're going to see in the next couple of years is just a warm-up or preparation for the whole policy to take place. So I don't know, when do you think it's going to be a good time to judge the success or failure of this policy?
Oh, probably 4 or 5 years. And the reason behind that is that they're focusing, the next year or two will be almost entirely focused on these structural changes, working people into new organisations, shifting people across organisations, coming up with new funding systems and everything else. I can't see many substantive changes until at least 2021. And even then, you're going to take quite a while to work things in and to really see a change out of that. And new qualifications will take years to develop and then to get in place and have people graduate from them. So there's going to be a lot of transitional pain and structural change and all the rest. And probably 3, 4, 5 years until you see whether this has actually made a difference or not. And part of the problem too is that because there's going to be so much change in organisations and staff and jobs and all the rest, IT systems, is that it will take quite a while for people to get down to saying, well, how are we going to improve skill shortages in construction or skill shortages in the primary sector? People are going to be distracted from those bigger issues by the major structural change.
And it does sound similar to what they did in New South Wales across the ditch with the TAFE idea of bringing them all into one. I don't know how well that's gone in some areas, but financially I think they've lost more than $200 million just last year. I mean, I don't know what the causes of that loss are. Do you subscribe to the idea that maybe some of those that have real good links to the grassroots, such as the one down south, the Southern Institute of Technology, might be able to find a way to be left out of this? Or is it an all-or-nothing proposal?
I think it's an all-or-nothing proposal. I mean, I can see the benefits of having a distributed system like we do in New Zealand with a lot of different polytechnics, and I can also see there's advantages in the New South Wales system. Now, if you want to pick out, the minister's picked out elements that he likes in the New South Wales system that he doesn't like in the New Zealand system. Other people go the other way. You can achieve improvements in vocational education either way. It really depends on how good the implementation is.
Thanks very much. Dave Guerin there, Tertiary Insight editor, with a bit of insight there, of course, into what will happen. It'll be a long time, he says, before we can judge it. 4 or 5 years to roll out properly. 16 polytechs coming into one.